Today, we're going to get into the wild story of a king who, right at the edge of death, gets this incredible second chance at life. But what he actually did with that extra time, well, it holds a really powerful lesson for all of us about pride, gratitude, and what you do when you get another shot at things.
No, really, just for a second, think about it. If you were suddenly told you had more time to live than you thought, what would you do with it? It's a pretty huge question, right? And it sets the stage perfectly for the dramatic story of a guy named King Hezekiah.
All right, so our story kicks off with King Hezekiah. He was a good king, one of the best, actually. Things are going great. But then, all of a sudden, he gets struck by this fatal illness. We're talking something that was completely beyond the help of any human power.
And just when you think things can't get any worse, the prophet Isaiah shows up with a message, and it's straight from God. He basically says, get your house in order, because you are going to die. You will not recover. I mean, wow, it doesn't get much more final than that.
But Hezekiah doesn't just roll over and accept it. The scripture says he literally turned his face to the wall and just prayed. He poured out his heart to God, not demanding anything, but just pleading, reminding God of how faithful he tried to be. And he wept bitterly. This was a desperate prayer from a dying man. And then something absolutely incredible happens. Before Isaiah had even managed to walk out of the king's palace, God speaks to him again. He'd heard the king's prayer. That fast.
So Isaiah is sent right back to the king with this total reversal. God's message was pure mercy and hope. I've heard your prayer, I've seen your tears, and guess what? I'm going to heal you. Just like that. He was going to live.
And the promise was so specific, it's amazing. Not only would Hezekiah be healed, but God was going to add 15 years to his life. Can you imagine? 15 more years, just granted, in an instant, all because of one heartfelt prayer.
But Hezekiah, he wanted to be absolutely sure this was for real, so he asked for a sign. Isaiah gives him a choice. Should the shadow on the sundial jump forward 10 degrees, or should it go backward? Now, Hezekiah knew a shadow moving forward is, well, that's what shadows do, so he asked for the impossible. Let the shadow return backward 10 degrees. So the prophet cries out to the Lord, and in this direct, undeniable miracle, God makes the shadow on the royal sundial move backward 10 degrees. It literally defied the laws of nature. Hezekiah was just floored with gratitude. He even wrote this beautiful song, which is recorded in the book of Isaiah, and he vowed to spend his 15 extra years just praising God and teaching his own children about God's faithfulness. Now, a miracle of this size, it doesn't stay quiet. News travels fast. Way over in the faraway land of Babylon, you had astronomers who studied the heavens, and they saw it. They saw that the shadow on the sundial had moved backward, and they were just stunned. So when the king of Babylon heard that this whole thing was a sign for King Hezekiah, he sent some of his top people. Their mission was twofold. One, congratulate Hezekiah on getting better, and two, more importantly, find out about the God who is powerful enough to literally turn back time. I mean, think about this moment. This was a golden opportunity. Hezekiah has a captive audience of these super influential men from a powerful nation, and they're all asking about the source of this miracle. It was the perfect chance to point them straight to the living God. But this visit, it was also a test. The Bible actually says God sort of stepped back to try him, that he might know all that was in his heart. So Hezekiah was faced with this really critical choice. This was a real turning point. So what's he going to do? Is he going to use this moment to glorify God, the one who performed the miracle? Or is he going to use it to glorify himself, to show off just how great and wealthy he was as the king? And sadly, the gratitude that had filled his heart just a little while ago, it gave way to pride, to vanity. Instead of telling the amazing story of God's mercy, Hezekiah chose to make it all about him. He gave them the grand tour. He opened up all his treasuries and showed them everything. The silver, the gold, the rare spices, the precious ointments, his entire armory. The text literally says there was nothing in his house or in his entire kingdom that he did not show them. But his choice to show off his own wealth instead of God's power, yeah, that had serious consequences. Soon after the Babylonian ambassadors left, the prophet Isaiah came back, and this time He was not carrying a message of congratulations. The message was absolutely chilling. Isaiah prophesied that everything Hezekiah had just so proudly showed off, all those treasures, would one day be carried away to the very same country those ambassadors came from, Babylon. Nothing would be left.
So why does this ancient story even matter to us today? Because it reveals a really tough truth. Sometimes the biggest tests we face are disguised as blessings. Hezekiah got his miracle, he got his second chance, but he totally missed the responsibility that came with it.
You know, just like Hezekiah, we're constantly interacting with people, our friends, our family, the people we work with. And every single one of those interactions is an opportunity. We get to choose. Do our words and our actions point people toward ourselves, or do they point them toward something bigger and better? We can really learn from Hezekiah's mistake here. Our words have immense power. A kind word at just the right time can totally change someone's day. And our actions, they create these ripples. When we set a good example, it empowers other people to do the same. We have this quiet, amazing ability to strengthen the good in those around us. And that brings us to the final question for all of us. Hezekiah, he showed off his silver and his gold. But what about you and me? When people look at our lives, what treasure are we showing them? Is it our own accomplishments and all our stuff? Or is it something with true, lasting value? That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this one.